Hello everyone, and welcome back to our discussion about solving quadratics. Today we're going to be using the quadratic formula. The one nice thing about the quadratic formula is that it works 100% of the time, but it is time consuming and there's a lot of opportunity to make a mistake with a calculation. So that's something that you've got to be really careful of. I pulled this from our cheat sheet talking about, what I expect you guys to do when you're looking for the value, when you're trying to use the quadratic formula. So the first thing we want to do is just find the value of the discriminant. That's the number that's underneath the radical. So I want to identify what A, B, and C is first, just to make sure we understand what we're doing. So A is 2, that's the number by the square term. B is -1, the number by the x to the first power, and C is the number all by itself, -6. So what we need to do is find the value of the discriminant. So I'm going to go D equals, I'm going to put b squared in parentheses because I don't know, since it's negative, I don't know if you guys remember that, like using certain calculators, if you don't put the negative number in parentheses, it won't do the calculation correctly. So we got -1 squared minus 4 times a times c. So now all we got to do is work this guy out and see what we get. So I'm just going to type in the calculator, -4 times 2 times -6, and we get 49. That's nice, because that's a nice, neat, perfect square. So now our next step, and that tells us that we have two real solutions in this situation since it's positive. So we know it crosses the x-axis twice. Looks something like that. Gives us a little information. So now I'm going to type or put the rest of this into our formula. So I've got -b, which become a +1, plus or minus the square root of 49, all over 2 times a. So I'm going to simplify this. Hopefully we all know the square root of 49 is 7, and 2 times 2 is 4. So now we can go through and do two different operations. So our first answer would be, we could do x minus, or 1 minus 7 over 4. Well, 1 minus 7 is -6. -6 over 4 would reduce to -3/2 or -1.5. And then our second answer would be 1 plus 7 all over 4. Well, that's 8 over 4, which is 2. So we know it crosses in these two spots. All right, so the next one here, we've got to get everything over to one side again. So we're going to go 9b squared plus 6b.
I know.
We're going to subtract the 16 from both sides and get 0. All right, so we're going to calculate the value of the discriminant with this one again. So we're going to go, I'm not going to write out A, B, and C. So we're going to go b squared, that's 6 squared, minus 4 times A is 9, times C is -16. So we're going to type this guy into our calculator. I'm not even going to do it by hand. So we got, 36 minus 4 times 9 times -16. It's going to be a big number, 612. All right, so I'm guessing that's not a perfect square. It doesn't look like a perfect square. Doesn't look familiar. It is not. So this one's going to involve a little bit more work. But that still means we have two real solutions, so we know it crosses twice. It's positive. So now we're going to plug it into the rest of this equation. We're going to go -b, that's a -6, plus or minus the square root of 612, all over 2 times a. And that is a 9, so 2 times 9. So what we need to do right now is look for a perfect square. We need to see if we can simplify 612, pull anything out of that radical. So factor tree if we wanted to. We can say, what is that, 2 and 306. And then 306 is 2 times 1, 5, 3, right? And I mean, 153 does have a 3 in it, right? So you go 3 times 51. 51 is a prime number, so we'd only be able to pull this guy out. So that's what we're going to do. So we're going to have -6 plus or minus 2 radical 153 all over 18. And now we can actually reduce this. Notice all our numbers here. We got -6, 18, and 2. They're all divisible by 2. So we're going to divide everything by 2 here and get -3 plus or minus 1 radical 153 all over 6. So that would be our solution. Notice it doesn't really help us, but we could type it into, and like to visualize it, but we could type it into our calculator and approximate that square root of 153. All right, so we got another problem here. So we want to get it all equal to 0. So we're going to add 6p to both sides. So I'm going to have p squared plus the 6p minus 24 equals 0. So what we need to do here, again, is find the value of our discriminant. So we're going to go d equals b squared minus 4 times a times c. So let's figure that out and see what we get here. So we got what? 36 minus 4 times 1 times negative 24 gives 132. Again, that tells us we have two solutions, right? So now we're going to go negative b, negative 6 plus or minus the square root of 132 all over 2 times a, 2 times 1. So we need to do the same thing that we did in the last one. We need to try and simplify that. So we're going to do the 132. Let's just go and do the factor tree again. I think that's the easiest way to do this on video. So we got 132. 2 times 66, right? And then 66 would be 2 times 33. 33 would be 3 times 11. So again, with this one, we can pull out a 2. So I'm going to have negative 6 plus or minus, pull 2 out, radical 33. 3 and 11 is all that's left, all over 2. So now I can divide everything by 2. So I get what? Negative 3 plus or minus 1 radical 33. And we are done. Again, we could type this into our calculator and get a decimal approximation if we wanted to.